Happy Freaky Friday, YouTube! And what do you know? Oh, the sun finally came out. It's a good day because it's Friday, even though that doesn't really mean anything to me anymore. But the sun's finally came out, like I said. Got playoff ball hockey tonight. Just had my birthday yesterday, so I'm 44 now. And 44 is one of my favorite numbers, so let's hope it's a good, solid year. And we'll go into it with that kind of attitude. And the summer here is kind of wrapping up. It's crazy how wet and cold it's been over the last week, 2 weeks. And our pool closes on Monday, and it's I'm still going in. I go in every day that I can, and I've got a good streak of 2 years in a row now where I've been in every day it's been open. And but it's down to like 66, 65 degrees and sort of thing. So you're not going in and spending these long swim sessions. It's, jump in, do a few laps, whatever, get the hell out. But it closes on Monday, so I'm trying to wrap up this weekend. I got my plan to wrap up a lot of the outdoor work that I can before kind of the season starts to shut down. And then other than, cleaning out the eaves troughs, raking leaves, cutting lawn, the stuff that you kind of have to continue to do on a as needed basis, it looks like the outdoor season, at least the fun part of the outdoor season, is really coming to a close. So that's kind of depressing. But the bright side of that is that I'm going to be indoors more in the near future, which means I'm probably going to be watching more movies, read more books. Not that I could possibly read many more books than I already have. But, so there should be more stuff for me to report on. And that is my subject, the subject of today's post, is some of the stuff I've been up to recently. And lately they've been a little more book heavy because I've been reading, one book, my indoor book, my outdoor book. I've been killing tons of books lately. This one's actually a little more game heavy because I just happened to finish a few games all at once sort of thing. So before further ado, let's just get right into it. First up, I wanted to see this movie as soon as I realized it was being made, and I wasn't able to see it in the theater, and wasn't able to get a hold of a copy of the DVD until recently, but I finally did, and me and James finally watched it. And the movie in question is Sonic the Hedgehog. I still remember the day in high school in the early 90s when my dad brought me home a Sega Genesis. I don't remember what it was for. I don't think it was like a birthday or anything. I think it was just kind of one of those out of the blue kind of purchases because I'd been, with release of that very first EA Sports NHL hockey game. I'd played it at other people's house, and I was on them about getting a Sega Genesis so badly. I think it was more of a, okay, here, shut up kind of thing than anything else. But I still remember the day my dad brought me home that system, and as with NHL hockey. But the game that it came with as the bundle deal was the original Sonic the Hedgehog game. And at the time, that was one of the most groundbreaking games. Just the sheer speed when he got rolling and going through some of those sequences. And to this day, it's one of my favorite franchises, one of my favorite characters, and it's just one of those constant presences in my life since that early time in the early 90s when I did get the Genesis and play that Sonic game. So all the games and cartoons and everything that have come since is a big part of my consciousness. So in this live action movie, we meet Sonic as he's just not a toddler, but he's a young blue hedgehog living in this nice nature-filled world, and he's looked over by this female owl creature that can also talk, and she keeps harping on him that Sonic, you need to control yourself and not show off your ability to run so fast because people are going to notice, and you don't want people to notice something like this. But eventually this tribe of, I'm not sure, they look like they're not hedgehogs, but there's something in that same kind of realm of I don't know, are they rodents? I don't know. But something in that same sort of realm, and his speed and power comes to their attention. And one day a whole whack of them converge on his location, and the owl lady gives him a bag of rings which are these magical golden rings, as you know, in the game, that will whisk him away to another world, to the safety of another world. So once he goes through this portal, we don't know the fate of the old owl lady. We assume she gets destroyed, but he is whisked away to another world. And jump ahead a number of years, and he's now probably like a teenage hedgehog, right? And living on planet Earth. And the place he's living in is called Green Hills, Montana, a small little town. And he's got this cool little cave filled with comic books and other sorts of treasures that he lives in. And he spends his time racing around town, kind of keeping tabs on the population who he's become attached to, even though they have no idea he exists. Other than one old crazy guy. Excuse me. Ugh. So, his favorite thing to do is pay attention to one certain couple in town, Tom and Maddie Wachowski. Tom is like a town sheriff, which in a small town like Green Hills isn't much of a challenging job, whereas Maddie is a vet and loves animals. So Sonic, of course, is drawn to her as well. So he kind of he watches movie night with them from outside their living room window, so unknowingly they've caught his attention, and he is kind of feels like part of their family, even though they don't know he exists. So one night though, he goes to watch one of the Little League games, and after it finishes and everything, the parking lot empties and everything, he kind of runs the base paths in his own fantasy filled baseball dream, and at the end of it though, he realizes how utterly alone he is, not being able to talk to any of these people. So then he gets upset and he starts running the base pass at this furious pace, and eventually builds up all this energy that explodes and basically blacks out a good portion of the Pacific Northwest. The US military and such are like, what the hell is this? Was that an EMP blast? Who is it? Who's doing this? What is this? Terrorism? And so they call in this arrogant, eccentric, but brilliant scientist named Dr. Ivo Robotnik, played by Jim Carrey, who kind of goes back to his vintage, crazy, over-the-top performance, and it's amazing. And so he's this guy with all these gadgets and stuff like that, who basically takes over the operation. And soon enough, his drones have a bead on Sonic in his hideout, and Sonic is then on the run. So as a last-ditch place to hide, he goes to the Wachowski's garage. Tom hears something going on out there. Maddie's already left to go to San Francisco because Tom's in the process of accepting a job in San Francisco to kind of bump his career up a bit. And so Tom hears this noise in the garage and stumbles in upon a blue talking hedgehog, who he tranquilizes with one of Maddie's vet dart things. And as Sonic is going down, he drops all of his rings, a portal opens up, and then his bag falls through the portal, so he's lost all of his rings. So after Sonic comes to, the two of them talk and kind of come to some sort of an understanding. And but before they can really decide what they want to do, Robotnik is at Tom's door and has tracked Sonic to this location. Sorry, I'm not even tired. It's just when I talk so much and I'm on camera, I tend to yawn. It's weird. So soon enough, after a confrontation with Robotnik, where Tom lays a nice little jab on him, they are on the run. And the rest of the movie is kind of Tom and Sonic on the run in Tom's pickup, running away from Robotnik and facing down all of his little gadgets and creations that attempt to lay them low. And Robotnik, of course, wants to harness this power of Sonic's for his own further ends. And eventually the adventure takes them to San Francisco. Maddie joins the fray along the way. And ultimately their goal is to get to the top of the skyscraper in San Francisco where Sonic lost his bag of rings, and get him whisked away to a safe world where Robotnik can't get him. But of course, along the way, Sonic and Tom develop this really good friendship. They become really tight, and neither Tom nor Sonic truly want him to go to another world and be gone. So they have to instead face down Robotnik in the end and maybe turn the tables on the brilliant madman. And potentially send him to some sort of purgatory. So the movie was excellent. It's just one of those fun, fast-paced, action-packed, oftentimes funny family films that anybody can enjoy. The effects are really good. Sonic, I thought, was really good in the movie, the way he looked and acted and sounded and stuff. And Jim Carrey, like I said, was amazing. And then all his cool tech was really neat. And then also I really enjoyed the 16-bit inspired intro and end credit portions of the film that kind of harkened back to the old Sega Genesis days. So really good movie, highly recommend, especially if you're a video gaming fan. I mean, this is something that's just, it's perfectly up our alley, unless you're a complete asshole. Only a complete asshole would not like that movie. So next up, one of the outdoor books I read, and it was a whopper. It's 1,100 plus pages, and is one of science fiction writing's crowning achievements. If I read through this properly, some of the introductionary notes and stuff like that, and there was a movie based on this book, and it was an abomination. Apparently, I saw it once long ago, but I don't remember even how it went, which I'm assuming it didn't go well if I don't remember it. But the book in question is Battlefield Earth. Although it's a big fat book, I went through it fairly quickly considering the size of it, and it takes place around the year 3000. A race of you can see these big furred clawed beings, really tall and really broad and really heavy, a race called Cyclos, and their jam is mining. And what they've done is they've kind of been this scourge through the galaxy that have taken over worlds for their own further desires, along the vein of mining. And one of these planets happens to be Earth. Now, they came over around the year 2000, so Earth has been kind of enslaved by them for just over 1,000 years or so. And there's not that much in terms of Earth's population left. They estimate maybe 30,000, something like that, 35,000 plus. And they're all located in these different pockets around the globe that are like in mountain ranges and stuff. And unknowingly, what they don't know is that this is because of the radiation in these areas, because the Cyclos, who can't breathe Earth's atmosphere, they have to use this special breathe gas. The radiation doesn't mix well with the breathe gas and they blow up. So these humans in these areas are inaccessible. Now, the main encampment we are introduced to at the start of this book is near the Denver area. And there's a young, strong man in this tribe named Johnny Goodboy Tyler. And he longs for something more rather than just hanging out in this tribe where everybody seems to get sick. And he feels like there's something wrong with that area, and he wants to find somewhere new for his people to live. And he's got a love interest there, and right now I'm forgetting what her name is, actually. But against her better wishes, he's like, I'm going to find us somewhere better to live. I'm going to see what's out there. There's all these tales about monsters and such. And she says, Johnny, if you're not back in 1 year, I'm coming after you no matter what. So Johnny goes out, and not long into his adventure, he runs into one of these monsters. And the monster in question, his name is Turl, and he is a Cyclo, and he is the security officer at the mine that's located right near Denver. He captures Johnny and brings him back to his compound and keeps him outside so nobody can witness what Turl's kind of up to. And Turl is a dubious sort, and he has located a hidden vein of gold in a nearby mountain range. And if he can find a way to mine this gold and get it teleported back to Cyclo, that's how travel works. They have these teleportation machines all across the galaxy that brings materials and personnel and stuff from place to place. If he can find a way to mine this gold and send it back to Cyclo in hiding and get done with his crummy assignment on Earth and get back to Cyclo, dig up his gold, he'll be rich beyond all measure and never have to worry about anything again for the rest of his life. So Johnny, to his ends, is the guy that's going to do this mining for him. So Turl keeps Johnny captive, but he teaches him stuff along the way and brings a couple of other Cyclos in on Johnny's existence, and he gets trained on all their machinery. He learns their language and all sorts of stuff. And Johnny uses this as an opportunity to study his foe and learn about their ways, and all along try and plot what will eventually become the Cyclos, and especially Turl's downfall. Now, Turl, knowing that Johnny's not going to be able to mine the gold vein by himself, takes Johnny in one of their special planes over to Scotland, where Johnny goes out and recruits, I think it was 80-something Scots, 50 workers, and then a bunch of support people, and brings them back to Denver, and they get all these people training on the different types of machinery and stuff. So Johnny entices these Scots to come to America with promises of, it's going to be dangerous, many of you might die, but you'll come back, you'll learn all this stuff, and we'll eventually, when the time is right, overthrow these Cyclos and take the fight back to them, sort of thing. So that's what he does. He gets all these Scots back there. He gets them all training on their machinery and learning their different ways and stuff like that. And eventually, when the time is right, they have this massive plan to bring the Cyclos down, and they do it. They coordinate this big plan to take down the mine outside of Denver, and while that's going on, to liberate all these planes and to have pilots that have learned how to fly of these other Scots take off to all the other mine sites around the world and attack them at the same time, and basically obliterate all of the Cyclos, and also send a little gift back to Cyclo via the teleporter device that might just blow up their world, sort of thing. So after this, though, that's not the end of the story. That's only like the first half of the story, maybe. So after this all takes place and the humans kind of reclaim Earth and stuff like that, they're not done. They don't know if Cyclo was damaged in the attack they sent through the teleporter, so they have to prepare for an eventual counterattack. And they also learn that there's lots of other different types of aliens out there that might want to come to Earth and pick up where the Cyclos left off, if in fact they are destroyed. And not only that, but a member of Johnny's own tribe is kind of plotting with Turl, or was plotting with Turl before the end. Or actually, no, sorry, Turl survives the attack and they keep him on as a captive. So this guy from Johnny's tribe plans with Turl how to bring Johnny and his forces down, because this guy has always harbored a grudge against Johnny for no real reason. So he's got all these other forces working against him that he's got to kind of plan. And it's not only just planning in Denver, he's got to go to different mine sites around the world and coordinate everything with everybody. And there's all these different nationalities and types of people that enter the fray. They all have to be trained, learn a language that will kind of be universal between them all. So it's all this different bits of planning and executing and preparing and thinking of contingencies. And then eventually in the end, a few of these other alien races do show up in orbit over Earth, but they are tempered by these two gray-skinned aliens that we're not really sure what their function is. And eventually it's revealed that these two gray-skinned aliens are actually intergalactic bankers who have a debt on Earth that, now that the Cyclos are all destroyed, the people of Earth now own the planet and have to pay back these bankers for the trillions and billions or whatever of credits that is still owing on the planet. So like, it's like Johnny all on his own in captivity with Turl, making all these plans that seem so fruitless, eventually getting this extra force of humans in and thinking, okay, maybe we can do this, to a successful revolt, to dissension within the ranks, to new alien races, and then it comes down to a matter of banking and finance, so, and all along Johnny is revered for all that he has done and how he has helped humans reclaim Earth and all the amazing feats. He's almost like a Jesus, to these people. He's done so much, and it's right up until the end. He's got to, sometimes he's got to use his brawn to get through a situation, and his bravery, and other times he's got to use his head and try and outthink the various people that are always seem to be lined up against him and his race's claim to his own home planet, sort of thing. So it's quite a cool conclusion to the book, and quite a sequence of events. I've never read anything quite like it. You think it's just going to be a straight up punch 'em up battle for the planet sort of thing, but then it just goes off in all these different directions, and the whole time you're captivated. So I see now why, reading through this intro in the book, that this Battlefield Earth was really quite a piece of work back in the day when it was released, and it is quite a revered story. You know, and it has been through all these years. It's too bad they did make that movie with John Travolta back in the day, because the Cyclos in that movie they're just humans with like oversized humans with like dreadlocks and stuff. They're not even aliens, right? And for a book that size, with so much that happens during it, and the story is just so complex and so all over the place, that it was just the wrong time, I think, to make that movie. They'd be a lot better off making that movie now, when they have all the different types of effects and stuff like that, and they could really make this movie a long movie. Because back in the day, you know, other than Star Wars movies that might go 2 hours or a bit more and stuff like that, you know, it was always the formula for most movies was an hour and a half, or maybe an hour and 45 minutes at the most, right? But for a long time now, the action movies and stuff especially have been getting up 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and then you even have the odd marathon one that goes over 3, right? So this would be a perfect time, I think, to make a real good Battlefield Earth movie with the type of actors we have out there that could fill the different roles, the effects and the technology to make it look like it should look like from what you imagine in the book, and then also the fact that they could get away with making a long movie. It's not the unusual anymore. It's more the norm than anything else for these types of movies. So I think now would be a really good time to take a stab at making that into an awesome feature film. So just my thoughts, my 2 cents. Last up, we got 3 games in a row. First one on the PS3, Need for Speed Shift. I played the sequel to this game before I played the original, which is quite a number of videos ago probably. And I actually like this original better. The sequel I don't think they executed on quite as well as the first. It's not your typical Need for Speed where there's kind of a story involved in it and it's more arcadey type driving. This is more of a simulation like Gran Turismo and stuff like that. And basically you just you want to reach the Need for Speed Live World Tour and become the top driver in the world. And to do that, you have to start off on Tier 1, buy a basic Tier 1 entry-level car, and then work through all these different types of events and eventually work yourself up the ranks to get to the Need for Speed World Tour. There's 5 tiers, I guess. There's Tier 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the Need for Speed Live World Tour. So there's 5 tiers to work through to complete the game. And along the way, there's different types of events. There's drift events. There's single race events. There's series of races where it's a points race over 3 to 5 consecutive races, that sort of thing. And along the way, you can also buy cars from each tier of kind of event levels that will be applicable to that level, and upgrade them, change their looks and stuff like that, and that sort of thing. So it's there's nothing groundbreaking about it. Like, we've seen games like this for a long time now. So it's not anything unexpected, but it is a really good game, a really fun game, and also keeps you going with, you want to reach the ultimate driving level of level 50, because you get points during each race for, keeping the driving line, drifting, using your nitro or your nitrous or whatever. Or is that a different game I'm playing? That might be Burnout. No, I don't think there is nitrous in that game. Or if there was, I never used it anyways. For banging and smashing and trading paint, for overtaking people, that sort of thing. So you gain all these points during each race, and they eventually jack you up driver levels. And level 50 is the ultimate. And I was close to it when I actually finished the game. I was at level 48, I think. So I just played it a bit longer to get up to 50, and I wanted that last trophy, right? So, but yeah, solid game. Controls well, looks great. Lots of cool cars to buy. The depth of the lineup of cars isn't as much as it is in other games, but they've got, a lot of the cars you really want to see. So they've got the main ones, the Lambos, the Porsches, the Dodge Viper. I don't think there's any Ferraris in it, now that I'm looking back. Yeah. Koenigsegg, is that how you say it? Which is a supercar that has come to my attention in the last little while, and the Bentleys and all that sort of thing. So enough cars to keep you satisfied and keep you literally rolling. So great game, highly recommend. Next up, this is the last of the games I played that my cousin lent me of the Telltale series, where you make selections on what your character says and the story evolves from there. This one, I really liked the two Batman ones, and The Wolf Among Us was amazing. It was such a cool, unique story taken on that fairy tale kind of vibe, which I thought was really cool. This one, though, was so unexpected because I didn't think... It's made on a pre-existing game series, and of all the series I thought they might make a game out of, this is one of the last ones that would have come up. But let's just get to it. It's Tales from the Borderlands. Now, I've only played the first Borderlands game. I haven't played the second one yet, and this game apparently takes place after the second one. But basically, you control this fellow at the start, Reese, who works for Hyperion, which is a company, like a technological company that kind of controls Pandora and observes from way up in the sky aboard their spaceship, which is called Helios. Reese is a guy that works for Hyperion and is like on his way up the corporate ladder, and he's just about to get a promotion, but when he enters his boss's office, one of his rivals, a guy named Vasquez, who is actually voiced by Patrick Warburton, we know him as Putty from Seinfeld and all those great roles that he plays, which is awesome because his voice is so recognizable and so amazing that it was like, this game was so cool to start, and then you throw in Putty's voice and it's like, I love this game. So this rival of yours has actually sent your boss out an airlock and said, yeah, you're not getting promoted, partner, right? So Reese is like, all of a sudden his life's going great. He's going to get promoted. He's working his way up to, what the hell just happened? My rival's in my place now. What the hell am I going to do? So he enlists a couple of his allies at Hyperion, his best buddy Vaughn, as well as a lady that's going to monitor things from Helios in terms of a technological standpoint, as Vaughn and Reese go down to the surface of Pandora to look for a vault key that Vasquez is after, and Reese hopes to turn the tables on Vasquez and kind of steal this out from under him and gain all these riches and get back into the good graces and be the guy that runs Hyperion, sort of thing. So it's all about this quest to get this vault key and get Reese back to where he feels he deserves, he belongs. Along the way, he runs into a couple of ladies that are like kind of like con artists on the surface of Pandora. Fiona and her sister, oh god, what's her name? Starts with an S. I totally forget. But they run into this pair of girls, and they kind of team up with them, but it's one of those tentative partnerships because, you know, Pandora, it's a nasty, nasty place. So they eventually work together and come closer together, and there's also other allies along the way, like a robot named Loaderbot that helps them out. They actually run into Scooter, who, as we know from the Borderlands games, is the one in the first game that he's kind of the redneck with the accent, and he sets up the transportation stations or whatever. You run into Scooter, he helps you out. So then it's just this evolving storyline as Reese chases after this vault key and tries to make his life better. And along the way, it'll shift from time to time. You actually also control Fiona and her actions every once in a while when the story shifts around a bit. But in the end, you control those two through the story, and everything sees its conclusion across the 5 episodes, which is the usual amount of episodes in these games. So really cool story, really fun game. And of course, it's got the bad language, just like all the other ones do. So that's fun. And yeah, totally unexpected game that I just absolutely loved. So I'm not sure which one I liked better, The Wolf Among Us or Tales from the Borderlands, because they were both so unique and unexpected in terms of what I was looking for from these games. Like, I didn't think those two types of games in that series would ever surface, so that was kind of cool. Last up, another PS3 game, Injustice: Gods Among Us. So this is basically just a street fighting game using characters from the DC Comics universe. Now, I can't really tell you the story of this game because it's the weirdest thing. I've had used games that I've bought on disc that haven't worked because there's like a scratch somewhere and it just won't load and stuff like that. This game loaded up fine, like it threw it in the machine, title screen eventually came up, everything was great. But when we go to the single player mode and play the story, it goes like it's going to load it, and then it just sits there with a black screen forever. And I mean, we left it for a long time, and we tried it numerous times. For some reason, the main story mode on this game will not load on my machine. So I don't know, but the rest of it, all the other modes play fine. So, like, it's so bizarre. I've never had this happen before. So what we did instead was play the other kind of main significant mode in the game, which was a single player mode, and it's called Star Labs. So basically every character in the game has 10 kind of fights they have to participate in that kind of has this mini storyline for each character. So there was 240 missions in total, so obviously 24 characters. There's of course the obvious ones like Superman, Batman, Joker, Harley Quinn, that sort of thing, and as well as Ares, which I didn't expect him to be in there. You get to fight with all of the cool villains like Doomsday, Solomon Grundy, Bane, that sort of thing. Catwoman's in there, Green Arrow, Green Lantern, Cyborg, Raven. Unfortunately, none of the other Teen Titans, Beast Boy and stuff, and Starfire aren't in there, but Nightwing. So yeah, so there's quite a few. Hawk Girl. There's quite a few characters in the game. You get to basically play, like I said, everybody who's in the game has 10 missions. And like I said, it's a little storyline behind each character. So it's not like you're just fighting random fights for no reason. And it's not always just a straight fight against another character. It's sometimes you have to, like, somebody's hurling meteors at you, so you have to deflect them as they come in with either a high or a low attack, depending on how it's coming at you, sort of thing. So there's a lot of varied types of levels within that mode anyways. So by the time you're done playing 240 of these little missions, you feel like you've got your money's worth out of the game anyways, you know? So I was pissed off that story mode didn't work, but once we found Star Labs and spent many, many weeks going through it, I kind of was like, well, okay. You know, like, it was enough that I got the gist of the game. I got to play with every character, whereas if I was going through story mode, I don't know what if it would make me play with different characters or if I would just choose one and go through it. Like, I don't know because we don't have access to that mode. So it was kind of cool that we got to experience every character and their different moves and stuff like that. And yeah, it was fun. It's a good game. It controls well. It looks really good. I myself, I've said this before when I was talking about other fighting games, but I'm not a big fighting game kind of guy. I just find them very one-dimensional. You know, once you've played a number of fights, it's like, okay, this is just the same thing over and over and over again, right? So I find they're one-dimensional and they don't have much replay value, and they lose your attention fairly quickly, right? So now I have noticed over the last number that I've played, like the newer Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter games, this one, which I don't know for sure, but they all have these more story modes that kind of make it a little more in-depth and not just pick a fighter, pick an opponent, pick a location, and fight. And it's like, well, how many times can you do that before it's like, okay, putting this away, right? So at least they've given you a story mode that keeps you a little more invested in the game for a longer amount of time before you put it down, right? And also these games, I find, tend to have a lot of unlockable content as well, like different costumes, concept artwork, that sort of thing, which Injustice does have. So it gives you something to kind of shoot for along the way as well. So overall, a pretty good game. And if you're a Street Fighting fan, I would say get it. If you're like me and you're kind of waffle on the fighting games, I would say get it, but don't waste your money on paying a premium for it. I would say look for a used copy and get it at a good price, because if you're like me and you're not big into fighting games, you'd rather go spend more money on a game that you really like, right? So, but anyways, those are the 5 things we've been up to lately, and I've got a couple more books on the go right now, of course, and there's lots more games that we're playing, so there will be more stuff in the near future, and it'll probably start coming more faster and more furious with the outside shutting down and me coming more indoors in the near future. So unless I get a new job, which will then take all this time away from me, for the time being anyways, there should be a lot more stuff coming in the near future. So until the next one, have a great afternoon.